So my skeptical mind, and that's just who I am. My skeptical mind goes to, well, yeah, of course, you've got this guy over here that's logical and reasonable, and you got this guy over here that's wearing a tinfoil hat. Of course, the tinfoil hat guy's gonna see a lot of stuff, right? He's like imagining it, or he's watched one too many sci-fi movies.
But it was used to help us frame hypotheses for UFO propulsion, power, stealth, weaponry.
Everything that we experience is very positive.
Sometimes the field of ufology has a short memory span.
We didn't know anything about the $22 million back then. We just kind of thought, well, this is, and I think that was the reason why they were looking for military-type people, because in the military, you work with whatever you got, no matter what the situation is, and you just kind of adapt and overcome.
All right, my friends, happy Friday. It is Erica Lukes here with you on UFO Classified, and I want to just give a shout out to all of my friends in chat who are here with me every week. We have great conversations. I am so proud to know all of you, and thank you for all of the support that you give me for UFO Classified. As you know, this show is, I'm doing my own production. And so maybe in chat, you guys need to start placing bets to see how many times I cannot unmute the mic. That might be a good idea. You should try that tonight. But I'm going for, I'm going to be right on with my production skills. As you know, those of you who have followed me, I have been very passionate about exposing the truth and getting to the bottom of the truth with regard to UFOs is often a very perilous thing to do, because we are given so much disinformation, misinformation, and then you have people that are perhaps just looking for groups of people to associate with, and they aren't necessarily grounded in reality or capable of looking at facts, which is really critical with regard to this subject, because you can get sucked down some pretty interesting holes. My guest this evening is somebody who's been on the show many times, and we have talked about some of the things that we both discovered along the way about a specific UFO organization, the Mutual UFO Network, which he has really broken ground on that, and I'm proud to actually know him, because there aren't too many people that do what he does, and we need more people like that to shine a light on questionable things. I mentioned in the show last week, I mentioned Jeremy Corbell and the fact that he and George Knapp had done a brief video where Jeremy Corbell gave a shout out to the Patriots and True Americans. And of course we know that this is lingo for, groups that we might not want to be associating with, and they are definitely grounded in ideology that I do not support. I hope you don't as well. But we're going to talk more about that and QAnon and some of the people that are perhaps involved in the UFO community that were supporting the insurrection on the Capitol. There's so much, and I just want to give you good information. I know that all of us have differing political opinions, but at the end of the day, we are all good people, and we can all try to find that middle ground and come together and support each other. So that's my bag. So I'm here with Phil Leech. Phil Leech was the former field investigator of Indiana, along with being a chief investigator, state director. He was with media and case researching. He was the national director for the case review team. He was with the STAR team global. He directed and founded the Project Match with MUFON and NICAP, and was a special assignment team lead investigator on a case that we're going to be talking about tonight. This is a very, very cool case. Not only that, but he was a fireman for 15 years and assistant chief for 12. He was with the city police department for 8 years. He was a training officer and in 9/11 communications. He also worked with the county coroner's office for 5 years on recovery and evidence, and was with the Indiana Anti-Terrorism Task Force Incident Command. He also worked as chief fire rescue in the ambulances for 5 years. I mean, he's just, first of all, Phil, I'm not quite sure, how you've done so much, and then you also are doing some really cool things. Your hobbies are metal detecting, which would be really actually cool. I wanted to try that. And then you collect and sell antiques, which I always, every time I talk to you, you know, I'm always hearing about the cool things that you're finding, and I would love to come hang out in your garage.
Yeah, a lot of people do. It kind of looks like Applebee's on steroids. I think if you look at the walls, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just stuff I like, little stuff, big stuff, you know, whatever. But I appreciate you mentioning all that about me. That's great. I do have a lengthy background in many different things, so I've been lucky over the years and enjoyed just about all of it, I guess. But I learned a lot, you know, and along the road. It all matters. It all adds up to something in the end. I'm not sure what, but you know, that list could be extremely longer if I start adding in all the small things. So appreciate you having me back on. I was sick last week, so you know, sore throat, the chills, the whole works.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had the Rona or not. You know, I'm not sure what I had, but I did get over that. Yes. Last couple of days have been much better, but
good.
So how's it been going, Erica?
Oh, you know, never a dull moment in the land of UFOs and intrigue and, you know, mystery and I don't know what, but it's good. I mean,
you know, I think the funniest thing to me after all this, you know, of course I watch the news, and of course politics is, you know, just covering up the news, and then the coronavirus, you know, that's just a whole nother covering up the news subject. But in the middle of all that, the United States military decides to release a bunch more UFO documents. Now, I forget how many pages, 2,400 pages maybe, I can't remember the exact number, but I found that extremely odd. You know, in the middle of all this chaos, I guess timing is everything, right? It made a really short news story that day.
And so what do you make of that?
I think that's exactly it. They probably released a bunch of, I haven't looked at it. My guess is it's all old stuff nobody cares about. They released it during a time when no one cared. They was more interested in what was going on with politics and coronavirus and everything else. And it, you know, they did it. I think it only proves one thing. It proves that they actually been looking into UFOs this whole time, right?
Or
you don't get that many documents, you know.
Right. And I quote,
you know, so their story.
I said,
about
I don't
me,
have a problem. She said, I think you do.
Years,
she said,
you know, well, how the hell you keep getting all these documents?
Sit your goddamn stool, shut your mouth, and do.
Right?
Well, they are, but for what purpose? And that's the thing that's been so interesting to me, is to, you know, look into the backgrounds of the people that were involved with NICAP and the people that were involved, you know, I mean, the people that have been involved decade after decade that might potentially be using the UFO subject as a means to, you know, hide covert projects. And then also, you know, I'm just make sure that they're covering their tracks when they're testing something. I mean, there's so many layers to all of this. And I think for me right now, I can't say that the government was trying to hide UFOs and extraterrestrial technology, because I think they were actually trying to hide something more earthly.
I think it's all possible. Right? You know, it's more plausible that the government is doing it themselves to cover up black projects, or to see how the public would react, or, you know, X, Y, and Z. There's a whole list of reasons, I think. And, you know, but I do think that there's a percentage of UFOs reports out there that are genuine. Okay. I'm not one of those that I don't believe in UFOs. That's not true. I do think that I think it's a very small percentage. You know, if you take MUFON, for instance, they average 7,000 cases a year. If you look at that, you might get 3 or 4 good cases out of those 7,000 cases. Now, not that they're not good, not that witnesses are not credible, they didn't understand what they've seen, but actually something that you could actually work with. There's a very tiny, small handful of those cases that exist. That's year after year. Now, that can be attributed to just flat misidentification of what you're looking at. It could be attributed to, you got to remember you have different levels of investigators in any organization, whether it's MUFON or just any of them, even in the past. So if you get somebody that's only been an investigator for 4 months, that's looking at a good case, they might not even know it's a good case. They might not know the right questions. They might not fill out the report properly,
or they might include somebody's prescription drug use. And
hey. You never know when that information might come in handy someday, I guess. I don't know. But, hopefully they got that situation took care of. I haven't heard any more about that. So, if things like that's still occurring, at some point you got to answer for stuff like that. That's stepping way past the boundary line. So, but have I heard anything recently about that happening? No, I guess not. MUFON on the most part, other than some changes in the command structure, I guess. I would imagine they've been affected by code as much as anything else. More people staying inside. They're not out at those peak hours. UFOs reports like peak hours, nighttime, easier to see, bright lights, some of the most valuable cases are daylight sightings to me, because you have a clear, you're not just looking at a flashing light, right? But I imagine COVID has affected some of their caseload. I imagine it dropped just a little bit probably, and depending on how many investigators they got and how good a job they do, how well trained they are, and how close they're paying attention to these cases. Good cases slip through the cracks. I looked at many of them, that, especially overseas. There's some great cases over in England and places that I looked at, and if somebody would have just took the time and did a little better job, I think there could have been quite a bit more come out of those cases. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Well, and let me ask you, because you're bringing up a good point, with regard to what MUFON does overseas or in different countries. And you had mentioned on a previous show that there was a big uproar in another South American country, and that was very interesting. And if you don't mind just just touching on that again, that would be really great.
Ooh. Okay.
Just to refresh people's memories,
Well, yeah. There is a country, yes, that someone had looked into some casework really, and ran across some things that just it seemed odd, I guess. So, they're a basic. It wasn't even a report. It was more of a confidential, discussion about it. Really, what that person found and what they thought about it, and they gave it to the DOI, who was Chase Kletsky at the time. And that idiot went and threw it on Facebook real fast on the MUFON page, which really pissed that country off. But, that country had, someone in charge that was, I don't know what word you want to pick. People gravitated towards that person really easy, and this person had quite a bit of money. They had their own symbolism on vehicles and different things like that. It was quite a mess. The way it ended up, I guess, I don't want to say too much about that necessarily. These people are crazy. I really don't want to get them worked up again.
Yeah, no, and I think the bottom line is, the organization, the people that were specifically in charge had a responsibility to keep things confidential, and that, to protect the names of the witnesses and things, and that wasn't at play, right? Which led to a really ugly situation.
I said, and I just recently had this conversation with someone, and I look back, I had a lot of complaints about MUFON, and did they straighten up some of those? Maybe more than just damn near everybody I complained about, that was worthwhile. They're not with MUFON anymore. None of them. Zero. All of them's gone. So I wasn't too wrong with what I was saying. Now, when you talk with like Jan Harzan, executive director, which really was the end result. He chose how things went. And now that I look back at my complaints, and I look back at I was a close advisor to Jan Harzan when it come to operations or issues. It didn't matter what it was. We had a lot of discussions frequently about things, or ideas or whatever. So now that I think back, though, the issues he ran across here recently, being arrested and everything, it makes sense to me, having a public service background, of why he chose not to react to some things. To me, as if you're guilty people don't go after guilty people. They try to avoid those types of problems. So psychologically, it makes sense to me. Now that I look back at some of these things I went to him with, or mentioned, hey, this can't go on, or this is wrong, or this and this, and I was just basically ignored, even though it was important. So I do think there's something to that.
And that's a good point. I mean, I went to him and other people in leadership positions with, some of the things that I went through, and was met, kind of fell on deaf ears, whether it's just incompetence or whether there's something more to it. Like,
well, they just don't like you, Erica. I mean, yeah, they just don't like your ass.
Well, you know what? I will say, though, there was a time when I was in MUFON and I was kicking butt and taking some names, and I know that threatened some people, and I was asking questions, and, those were questions that Douglas asked, like, where's the data going? Why is this happening? Why after 50 years haven't there been any breakthroughs? And why are we, at the 2017 symposium in Las Vegas supporting somebody like Corey Good and the secret space program? And I've got to just read you this really quick because I came across this. I've got all of the MUFON symposium, the proceedings, and I want to just read this really quick. So this is from Corey Good's talk. It is The End Game, Part 2, The Antarctic Atlantis and Ancient Alien Ruins. This was Wilcox and Corey Good. Yeah, and the truth is exploding across the internet. Millions are learning for the first time there is really a negative elite running the planet, engaging in child trafficking among many other heinous crimes. The cabal's brazen efforts to completely destroy the information are quite surprising to the millions who are now only discovering the scope of the problem. And then it goes, Part 1, the end game is spread more quickly than anything we've ever written before, getting 100,000 views in less than 31 hours. And then Part 2, it says, our goal in Part 1 was to create a unified resource of information to show how rapidly the cabal, the New World Order, the Illuminati's whole agenda is plummeting. That was at the 2017 MUFON Symposium, which I guess, it was my understanding this was a scientific endeavor.
Well, MUFON and scientific, I guess they've tried in the past. That's just crazy. Ufology is a very strange place, okay? And the more you're away from it, the more you want to do it. Don't get me wrong. The more you don't investigate UFOs, and you're not doing, the more you want to do this type of thing, because you do miss it. Okay, I think some people are made to do it. They just have to do it. But the people that's been in ufology for a long period of time, many of them turn to the fringe side of things. You can't be in ufology. I used to train people in Indiana, field investigators. I used to tell them all the time. I said, listen, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care if reptilians with 18 toes. I don't care. You're to investigate the case with the facts that's presented. Okay, I don't care if you don't believe in triangles and you're looking at a triangle type report. Do the report. Do the investigation. Figure out if that's what you're looking at. In the end, the longer you're in ufology, that's boring shit. Okay, and so people gravitate towards either conspiracy theories or the fringe side of the ufology world, and just the way out there side. It either keeps them relevant. They sell books. They get to speak. They got to Because if these guys didn't have this crazy shit to talk about, they wouldn't have anything to talk about because they're not investigating UFO reports.
And they maybe get a date, which they clearly probably didn't do in high school. So, I don't know.
Well, that very well could be. I guess that's possible. But it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that any organization, they have to know this too. I mean, these people ain't stupid. Well, maybe some of them, but they have to know that this is how this ends up. An organization sees their people talking about crazy shit at their state monthly meeting or something. It's not even in the same ball field as what should be. They need to keep a way to rein those people in, keep them concentrated, give them something to do. I don't know what the answer is. But people go to where the money is, they go to where the drama is, the conspiracy is, things like that. And you don't get anywhere. That's why when everybody says, well, MUFON's been around 50 years, NICAP, and
well, at least NICAP was a little bit more respectable, though.
Yeah, but, I believe ufology could have been, had a lot more information a long, long time ago, if that was the goal.
Right, exactly.
And I do believe in the 60s, when probably, that probably was the goal of these organizations, as they progressed. But as years went by and up to today, well, the world's changed, everything's changed to where you have to make money to stay in business. So you have to do this, you have to do this. And, I had many conversations with Harzan about this, about, hey, a lot of these cases, they don't amount to nothing. I mean, you got all these big percentages, and it's just for donors. It's so you can go to a donor and say 35% are unknowns, and that's how you get money. And he told me, he said, I can't go up there and tell them 3% are unknowns. They're not going to give me money. So how good is that data that you have in a system?
Well, wait a minute. I mean, if you were actually good at, selling things, you would say, that would be a good thing. Okay, great. So we've got 3% that are actually unknown. That means you're doing your due diligence. And then 3%, I know if that's a...
He wanted big numbers. He wanted big percentages for unknowns. Though I think his concept was that I don't know how they run now. Okay, I know for years it was the bigger percentage, the more possibility UFOs exist. We need the money for X, Y, and Z. And me and him had that conversation numerous times. And I said, well, that information is worthless. I mean, many of those cases you could go through and just change the dispositions because they wasn't done correctly. Like I said, it could have been done by somebody who'd been there 3 months or 30 years. But it was all about the percentages and the numbers. And what that meant to him, to where he, the organization, in order to draw the money from people. It was all about the money. Anyway,
Ramtha.
Yeah. She's still alive? I don't know.
Yeah, I think she is. I think, she's probably still funding. Who knows? But that would certainly be interesting. And that goes back to a different thing that we'll talk about a little bit later. But. Yeah,
these, like I said, but that's a fringe element of ufology, She found a place. And to follow it, and the people that needed something to believe in, and you start something like that, and it's a moneymaker. Same way with these guys, little speeches they go around and give, and you sit and listen to it, and you think, oh my God, it dude's nuts. Not a shred of evidence. Zero. And they want you to believe it. Well, a lot of people's going to believe into it because they're looking for something next best thing, because ufology, nuts and bolts ufology in the end, sometimes it's kind of boring. You can ask any field investigator who's done a whole lot of reports.
That's the thing. It depends on how you look at it and how you frame it. And that, for me, when I was with MUFON, it's like, God, you don't need to embellish the facts. You need to present things, like my journey over to Norway. Things like that. When I went with Ted Rowe down to a certain place in Arizona to do field work, there's lots of hours and hours that are, boring. But when you get something, when you are working with people that are actually, really engaged with science, it is exciting. but it's
Well, it
just
is finding those people. Yeah,
so,
it's fine. It's fine to. A lot of people start out, and don't get me wrong, NICAP, any of these organizations, they got great people in them. You can't say that all the MUFON's bad, all the NICAP's bad, all the, back in the day, Newport, all these. No, they have great researchers. They've put their careers into them. That's not what this is about. It's about if you don't run an organization, okay, the way it should be ran, that organization is going to start to splinter, and you're going to have this group here doing this, and this group here, thinking these certain different ways, and that's where you start running into trouble. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Hey, have you been keeping up on the political side of things?
I have, and I am telling you, it is quite interesting because, and I've tried to on my past few shows. That's why I mentioned Corbell and kind of the things that are taking place. And there's been also, the more I look into things and the more I look at certain radio stations and things that are promoting and supporting really dangerous conspiracy theories and things, and then I look at what has taken place with QAnon, and then how people can fall into these, mind-numbing things. Yeah, I've definitely been keeping track of that because ufology is front and center, and because people can be so easily swayed, it is a perfect breeding ground when you've got people that are already distrusting the government, and then you've got people that are, into these more, like you mentioned, these fringe ideas and things like that. They're much more pliable if they're not careful. And so now you see that there are people that are posting videos where they are at the Capitol and things like that.
Are you talking about the, what's his name, the Michael Hall videos?
Yeah, those were certainly interesting.
I've seen those. I don't know if they're there. Damnedest thing I ever seen. But I don't know that much about Michael Hall. I know he loves conspiracy stuff. I mean, I guess I've looked at some of the stuff he's done. Pay no mind to him, but conspiracy sells. He knows that. You can clearly tell that. And for him, that's a moneymaker in some way, or notoriety, whatever word you want to pick. Have you seen his new videos that he's put out with there at the Washington D.C. recently?
Yeah, I did. Would you like to tell us a little bit about those?
Well, I mean, sticking to the facts, Michael Hall published several videos on Facebook of his. Actually, he took a train. I do not recall what state that guy lives in, but he documented the entire damn trip. And everything to where they ate at. He met up with someone in ufology there in Washington D.C. One of the videos I've seen is him on what I'd call a side street, filming what looks like a couple hundred Proud Boys standing in the middle of the road, got the whole road blocked, and clearly he was meeting up there. And I have a million questions. Okay, just being in public service, I got a million questions of things. Why there? Why then? How did you know to go there? That was during the rally speech. Why wasn't you at the rally speech? And why was you down the street, where the Proud Boys was at? That was all kind of strange. Without going into too much detail, just sticking to facts, I do know there was a MUFON board member that was with him.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, I'm guessing you've seen the video, right? You know who it is?
Yes, it was Tom Whitmore. Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay. Now, I guess talking political, these people have the right to do what they want. They can carry signs and yell and scream all they want. Everybody, all of us have that right. I guess the question in my mind is, why there with the Proud Boys? Okay. why bring the name MUFON into it? Do I think he was representing MUFON? I do not. Okay, I could be wrong. I do not think that. I think that he was probably there on his own, doing whatever the rest of them people was doing there. So, but I think it was bad timing. I think it was extremely bad judgment. That's me stating what I think about it. It doesn't matter what I think about it. I think that others will have to look at that and make their own decisions, right or wrong. Did he commit any crimes? I haven't seen that. I can't say that. I've heard stories that's a possibility. I can't confirm that at this time, but I think it's a matter of how it looks. Even though he might not have been there on MUFON's behalf, which I don't think he was, but I think he just went. Stupid move, but
I think when you look at the pattern of, John Venturi and that scandal, and some of the things that Steve Hudgens has said, and some of the people that hold leadership positions that are very much coming out and making remarks, and then when people question them about those remarks, they, I wasn't speaking for MUFON, and we have free speech, and yada yada. But in a professional world, when you hold a position in an organization, you have to adhere by the guidelines, ethical and professional guidelines, and going out and saying things that are what we have seen, that it's not a good representation of an organization. And then you see, again, that it's multiple people involved. And so is there an underlying theme of this? And, are people willing to address that? Or again, will it be the MUFON, this two-step, where we're, oh no, hey, Jan Harzan just got arrested. Oh no, it's okay. And then you'll have another person who works for MUFON coming out and saying it was the evil cabal coming out, and he was days away from releasing UFO videos, and that's why they framed him and put him in jail. And it's like, oh, come on, take responsibility. Is this a professional organization? Is this an organization that is dedicated to science, promoting the truth? And at some point in time, like we've talked about, quite a bit, I know there are good people involved in the organization, but when the organization is tainted with this kind of stuff, decade after decade, do you want your name associated with that organization any longer? What purpose does that serve?
That's true. I mean, I guess, they've lost a lot of people. They over the last 5 years especially, I know that, their membership has dropped way off. They're probably down to 25 state directors out of, so they're missing half the states have no one in them. And that's just my guess. Let's put it that way. I've been told that. But that's just my guess. So they're hurt. I mean, and the ones they got are going to stick around probably. This thing that happened in Washington, D.C., there's nothing we can be mad all day long about it. Everybody else can be mad all day long about it. It's not going to matter. It's up to them to do the right thing. Now, looking at the past, now you keep in mind they have different management now, so we got to give them a little leeway to see if that different management reacts in a different way. If they react the same old way when there's issues that come along that, maybe clearly they should say something, do something. I don't know what that answer is. If they react the same way, then you have the same old problems. But they are under new management at the moment.
New old management?
So, well, my hope, this is my hope. I mean, I like MUFON. Don't get me wrong. I've dogged them up one side and down the other, okay? I've gotten rid of a lot of people in MUFON because they needed to go. I still think MUFON is a needed asset. My hope is that they figure this out, they get the right leadership, people put in the right places, make the right decisions, and get it back on track. It can be done. It just depends how bad they want to do it, or they just want to keep it the same old way and hope it works out. Well, it ain't worked out so far like that. So they already have that answer. But there's, like I said, a lot of good people in MUFON. I have friends here in Indiana that's in MUFON, and they enjoy what they do. They like what they do. They try hard. And I'd hate to see them not have that opportunity to do that because of people that can't make the right decisions.
But at what point, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, and I agree with you, there are some really good people that I've met that I will, always love and support. But I think for me at this time, just looking at the fact that they bought and sold data and multiple times with people's personal information, they're leaders of the group that are definitely have some racist points of view, and they insert religion and some really whacked out thoughts into the subject where it should just be, this is us, this is how we investigate, there should be none of that crap. And then there are also different chapters around the country that are pocketing a lot of money and perhaps not putting that on their income tax. I mean, there are all sorts of things with the organization. I just think it needs to be really just dismantled, and I think there needs to be something
You're right.
new.
A few years back, Jan Harzan changed a lot of that stuff to where the national side of MUFON was kind of not responsible for what the states did. Each state is supposed to have its own, tax ID number. MUFON has a tax ID number. Why everybody can't use theirs is just mind-boggling. But so they want you to go get your own, okay? But you have to have it almost. In some states, you have to you pay MUFON a fee to be either belong as a member or a field investigator. Then in the state that you live in, when they have monthly meetings, you have to pay those people too. They actually that state collects money from people for belonging to MUFON, which you already paid to belong to MUFON. So that state's getting money. They're getting income from that. They're basically charging to come to the meetings or whatever they're having. And when you have a tax ID number, you're supposed to be reporting things and certain percentages and all blah, blah, blah. Who knows? A lot of that information can be found. There's ways to look at any nonprofit organization and look at their information. They have to report so many things, but it's just not detailed enough because it's mostly in general numbers. Like we spent this much on media, this much on the secretary. But, it's a mess. They're allowed to do it. You got to remember these are all volunteers. So even though MUFON has a rule book and a handbook and a field investigators training manual, and they have all this set up, in the end, they need everybody. They'll tell you they don't care if you quit.
Well,
I don't care if 50 of them.
Right. They certainly don't treat the people that volunteer for them with a lot of respect.
Well, and I've had that conversation with many people in Upper MUFON. I said, listen, communication is important. You guys don't do that. If they have a problem, they can come and tell us what the problem is. I said, that's not how it works. You can't lead from behind, okay? It's as simple as that. You can't lead from behind. You can't sit back and wait for the problems to come to you. If you're proactive and you're doing the right things, some of these problems won't even exist. Or if they do show up, you can handle them quickly because you have things set up the way they need to be set up. You have structure. They have a basic structure plan in National MUFON that's filtered down to states and foreign countries. That's kind of questionable. And maybe they changed all this. They have new management. Maybe they changed all this. Maybe it's so great and better, and I do hope so. But as these problems come down the road, and you'll see them, they show up every year. It seems like usually in January. Come think of it. As these problems come down the road, if they don't react properly, then it's kind of ran the same old way.
So we've talked about this before, and I would definitely encourage my listeners to go out and listen to some of our past shows because they've been quite special. And they've, helped.
Yeah, they were special, all right.
But
yeah.
I mean, it goes back to, for me, I think the big thing here is the data. Where did the data go in NICAP? Where is the data going for MUFON? Where is the data going for To the Stars Academy? And that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And I think that
To the Stars
having,
Academy, they took everything. They took the evidence. They probably got the data, and they disappeared. It was a perfect crime. If you look at any federal agency or military, that's exactly how it's supposed to work. I mean, they show up all of a sudden. They become rock stars because they got a tic-tac video, which to this day really isn't very clear on a lot of information, right? They go after I know for a fact they go after databases overseas. They go after NICAP. I'd spoke with Fran Ridge. I knew for a fact he called me in a panic because they was coming after. They wanted his database and any hard copy information that he had.
And do you know specifically who it was that made contact with him?
Chris Mellon.
Mm-hmm.
And Fran told him no, and Chris Mellon went to another person that I know and said, "Tell me where the databases are. I need to know where they're at. We want that information." And the answer was, how you can Google it and figure out who's got the UFO databases. So it's not like it's a big secret, But yeah, he was very unsuccessful with getting like Peter Davenport stuff and Fran's. And as for MUFON, that's questionable how that played out. Okay, we might not never know the answer to that, but hard telling what Jan did at the time. He was enamored with those people. He thought they walked on water, and I told him from day one. I said, "Listen," I said, MUFON needs to stand on its own two legs. I said, let them people do what they're going to do. We shouldn't be handing them just whatever the hell they want. That went in one ear and out the other. So, I just think that they played that correctly. I think they come in and they basically took, 50 years, 30 years, however long these organizations have been in business, I think come in and finally figured out how to get what they wanted.
Well, and
when they realized.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say this. I mean, it is interesting too that Larry Frischella, and Jim Semivan have been involved with funding, AFU. Which is a huge storage facility. And they've worked really hard since the 70s. They've done a great job, but they've, and everybody needs money and things to survive. But, I mean, it is interesting that there's an overseas organization that these people with To the Stars Academy connections are funding and working with, and what is the end game there with all this data?
Well, I think for one, it's just easy. I mean, you don't have 30 years invested in something. You walk in, play the big boy on the block, throw some money around, do some interviews, TV shows, blah blah blah, get what you want and leave. So everybody's work that whole time, they just basically, here you go, take it. I think the part here's the thing that bothers me is I understand if they come in and did all that. That's slick of them, I'm not sure what they think they walked away with. I do know that they paid some people for some samples of this and that they was going to get tested. Even if they come in and got everybody's database, I said it earlier in the show. There's only a handful of cases that count for anything. You can look at all the triangle cases you want. There's not much there. Okay.
And let me ask you what, like with the trace evidence that they got from, that To the Stars Academy acquired. And I remember there being kind of a huge to-do about that, but where did that evidence come from?
Well, I do know that Chase Kletsky had her hands on some evidence at the time. I do know that she handed it over to Luis Alessandro, who, according to them, was there on behalf of some TV promotion crap or something. I'm not sure what the story was, but that's never to be seen again. So I question that. That was one of the things early on I argued about.
Well, it could be like
why on earth?
But that's another story.
Oh, why is anybody giving? Why is anyone giving anyone anything if you're an organization of any kind, whether it's NICAP, KUFA, whoever? The hell are you giving it to people for? I mean, it could change the world, right? I mean, if you got a piece of metal from a UFO that no one knows what the hell that metal is, or it is, it's rare or whatever, you're just going to hand it over to someone. Hell, that thing could be worth millions of dollars. You could be making airplanes and spaceships out of the damn metal if you can figure out how to make it. So, I mean, none of that made any sense to me. It was all about notoriety. Like I said, they was big kids on the block at the time, and everyone grabbed to, went to them, and next thing you know, guess what? They're gone. Last I heard, right?
Well, I mean, who knows? Because now we've got Bigelow, coming out with his new old thing. Conscious studies, Yeah,
the only thing I could think of is if the military wanted database information, they're going to match up what types of reports or where, if they was running some type of black ops with, new aircraft or whatever, right? You can take reports and see where, and you can do it. You can look and see where, the oval-shaped objects were all, in this year, they was all located in northern Indiana, right? There's more of them this year in northern Indiana. Well, maybe they was doing something with an oval-shaped object, the military, and they just want to see how many people happen to notice, and how many people is willing to believe it's a UFO and not a military project. So all that data would be important to that aspect. Do I think they stole data, or not stole, but got data from everybody and sat back and they feel that they got something great? I don't think so. I think there was something there to begin with. Any of them organizations would have been yelling to the roof with it. And even getting the names of people, the witnesses and this and that, to me, that's ridiculous too. You can have them. What do you do? Call them up and go, hey, somebody said you seen a little green alien in your bedroom at 3 a.m. It's not right that they do it, but they're not going to get much out of that, is what I'm saying.
And I think maybe perhaps it's, and I'm just thinking to myself, why would they want to invest in that data when they've got programs that could get in there and get it to begin with? And so would this be the work of some private contractors instead?
Oh, very well could be. I mean, funding can come from any direction, especially in black project funding. There's billions and billions of dollars sitting there, especially over the last 5 years. They really threw a bunch of money towards that type of thing. So it's hard to tell. Honest to God truth, I just think, we can figure this out, right? We can figure out UFOs exist and just put some effort into it. The more effort you put into it, the more you get stopped. It sounds good. You can create programs, you can create special teams, you can be part of the problem-solving thing. It kind of ends at the top. Depends how far they want to go with anything, how far they want to push it. And I don't know if money dictates that. I'm sure it does, but it just, a lot of things stop, at the further up you go, and it's less important. I was talking with someone recently, and I said, I hear people complain a lot, but no one ever calls me and tells me about a good UFO report. And I don't know. Do they call you? Say, hey, here's a good UFO report. This is fantastic.
I do have people that are
communicating
with me, but
it's
obviously my area of focus has not been necessarily on that, and I don't have the resources to go, across the country and do the kind of investigation that I would need to do.
I think
just
you should just get a
properly.
backpack, get you some bottled water, walk across the damn desert, go to
Why not?
Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh well, I've
see if you
been
get
there, done
see if
that.
you get
Gonna
arrested.
do it again just to make sure that they know I'm there.
You know,
But
it's trespassing, misdemeanor
no,
crime.
well,
Just
not
walk
on,
with your ass on in there.
it's okay. I've got a good vantage point.
Just go on in there, get the paperwork, see who charges you. I mean, that's just something to talk about on the radio.
Oh, get zapped from a little beam from above. That could be fun. I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah, hey, you never know.
That'll be a good story. We might have something to share in that regard in a month or so. We'll see how that works out. But
If I was in Utah, you can bet your ass I'd be sneaking there if I had to crawl. Yeah, I'd have aluminum foil wrapped around me and everything else, just sneaking in, see what's going on.
I would love to see that one. The aluminum foil. You'd just be. Can you explain to me how
That
that
would
would
be great,
roll out?
wouldn't it?
Just
Yeah, hell yes. That way if they caught me, they'd think I was crazy and let me go, right?
so what? And the aluminum foil would be for deflecting what?
Alien microwaves.
Okay.
That's my story. I'm going to stick with it. That's how.
Well, I think that you and I have we've got a trip to make, so you need to, when
We got
things
trip.
come down with
Oh,
COVID,
yeah.
I can just picture that one. Me and my nerd gear, and you and your tinfoil, and we could sit
That's
there
what I'm
and
thinking,
call
right
in the
there.
mothership. That'd be good. Or wait to see.
Well, Lord, yeah. We was told to go there. It's supposed to pick us up at 2 a.m.
Exactly.
I think it works. Ain't no cop and judge in their mind. They're going to look at you and go, you're just crazy. You can get out of my courtroom. That's the funny part about ufology, too. I hear a lot about lawsuits and people say stuff and slander and this and that. That's great stuff, man. I swear to God. If I was ever in a courtroom with a whole bunch of people from ufology who was all pissed off at each other, first thing I'd look at the judge and say is, we all believe in green aliens. That's what the hell we're fighting over. How far do you think that judge would throw everybody out? So, that reality. Okay. Never mind. I'm just rambling on.
Well, and I want to just go back a little bit because there's so many things to talk about, but I wanted to talk about the where the data was going with regard to other countries and things, and who was in charge of all of that. Was that Dave McDonald?
Yeah, he was director of international development. I believe that was his title. I could be wrong. Steve Hudgens has been promoted to that title now. Steve is the director of international development. So he took Dave McDonald's old job.
And what does that mean exactly?
Basically means you're over the foreign countries. Now, being over international, you're over all the international countries. Canada's used to be not involved or classified as international. They are now. That was changed. That just means you're responsible for the other countries. You got to make sure their reports are done. And a lot of countries have absolutely no one in them, but you still get reports from those countries. So Steve and whatever crew he has, they go through and finish out those reports, with what information's in them, basically. Some countries, they do have directors in those countries. I can't speak for right now. I kind of know it probably ain't too different, but I think maybe they're going to get I know Steve. Steve sticks by the book. Okay, I don't. You can take the opinion part out of it. When it comes to MUFON and how things are supposed to be, he sticks straight to that book. If it's not in there, if it is in there, you're going by the book. So I imagine he's trying to get a grasp on some of these other foreign countries, because in the past, I had just talked with Jan many times to say, hey, what the hell's going on? I like cases in England, Japan, some of these countries. They had some really good cases. You couldn't call them. You couldn't ask them any questions. You couldn't even email them for fear they'd get mad and quit, was what I was told. The truth of the matter was that the past administration with MUFON, I can't speak for the current, but the past, was selling franchises to these other countries. So they would say, hey, here's the MUFON name. They was able to get in the database And my question was always, well, if we have no communication with them, we really don't know what the hell he's doing. How do we know that they're not past, what are they doing with this getting into CMS system, or are they passing this, are they printing it all off, are they giving it away, or their neighbors looking at it? I mean, there's a whole list of questions comes along with that. And I told him, Jan and him, I said, I do not believe that we should be selling the MUFON name for X amount of dollars per year, going, here you go, here's a password, have a good time. And I do know that they had cases, a lot of them, and some countries do just fine. France is one of them. France is impressive to me at times. I've worked in a way, with some people in France. They take it very seriously. Some countries, we don't know nothing about them. They're claimed as MUFON, but hopefully that's all being changed. I would almost guess that Steve is going to try to straighten that up the best he can. I think it's a daunting task, okay, because they've been doing things a certain way for a long period of time. But if anybody can do it, it'd be him, because he, like I said, he sticks to the book pretty close, no matter what it is. So if he is doing that, more power to him. I don't think I would want that job.
Yeah, I don't think I would. Yeah, I wouldn't want that job either. But it is. I mean, there's so many interesting things, and I know. Sometimes it seems like we are MUFON bashing, and I mean, obviously, clearly we are. Who am I kidding? But it's not. This is an important thing to keep shining a spotlight on an organization that is involved in some very questionable things. As I mentioned, and I'll keep mentioning this, the selling of people's personal information. Putting in the database, like you've mentioned on past shows, different prescription medications that a witness is taking, and again, that data is being sold to the highest bidder, which is disturbing. And then you've got, the different allegations of sexual harassment and the very overt racism that has been plaguing this, and there seems to be no direction. And then you've got the latest scandal with the executive director and the things that happened with that. And it's just like, okay, so if I keep shining a spotlight on it, it's because nothing is changing, and it takes a lot to make a change. And there are new people coming into this field every single day who might not know this, and maybe they listen to, a show tonight and they've never heard it before, but this is important stuff. And you cannot, you can't make a change in a field that is got so many problems unless you acknowledge the problems, unless you keep on working on them, and then find strategies to move forward.
Well, yeah, I think they have an opportunity. Okay, whether I like Dave McDonald in that position or not, it's irrelevant. And even to them, what all of us think is irrelevant. I can tell you that right now. What they need to worry about, what they need to do is prove to their membership that things are going to be better. They're going to make changes. They're going to do what they need to do. Okay, we already see what the past has done. It's whittled them down to almost nothing. So they make the right changes. They make, the right attitude. Those are the people they need to start proving something to. The people that look up to them for guidance and direction, and these, like you said, these new people coming in. It can be done. I mean, if you get the right people in the right places, I think MUFON's a needed asset. I'll say that all along. I tell people still to this day, believe it or not, join MUFON if you want to investigate UFO reports. There's really no place else you can go if you're that something feel it's like something you need to do. Then do that. Just be careful how far up the ladder you go. But that is my wish. That's what I hope, that I put so much light upon so much bad that was in the past, and guaranteed there's going to be more things come down the road. I guarantee it. Hopefully they can make those right decisions. If not, then we're going to have radio shows like this, like the Capitol thing going on with these videos that's floating around out there, a MUFON board member and this guy taking the video saying, "This is my good friend from MUFON." What the hell would he say that for?
Well, and I think, again, it's like, what does that, why should political beliefs, religious beliefs, why should any of this be inserted into the quest for extraterrestrial life or for studying something? I mean, that shouldn't even be in the same realm. It's ridiculous. And so
they're going to be acted alone without any guidance from MUFON, which is probably true. Okay. Now, I guess I would be questioning how many people knew he was going. I think when you look at the different people in the UFO community and you look at the things that they've been posting continually and how we're going to have this big, like I was reading in the MUFON symposium proceedings from Corey Goode in 2017. I mean, these people are predicting this big, the end of the world and all the evil cabal and the pedophilias, whatever, blah, blah, blah. All these shape-shifting reptilians are going to be taken down. And it's like, holy crap, here is an organization that is supposed to be doing A, B, C, and D. They're a non-profit, and they're promoting very dangerous stuff. And so, that's a lack of control, though. See, it's hard to control.
With good leadership, you can control it. So
you could.
So it's
right now. I would guess they're in a position right now that's extremely strange. You're talking about an organization that's had plenty of issues. They're dropped in manpower, which means that
if they can survive the Ramtha scandal, I mean, come on, it's like, I mean, this is a person that is, that it's insane. And so clearly, that's not going away. And I think we have to look at the UFO community and we have to say, wait a minute, where are we just going to be doing this in its pure form? And how are we going to brush off all of this other really unproductive, dangerous kind of crap that we can see has resulted in things like QAnon, going out and engaging in really dangerous, illegal activities. And so it's just a trip. But we're going to take a little bit of a break. So, we can rest up and then get ready for part 2, which I do want to talk to you about your case, the barbell case, because that is really, really good. And then also a little bit more, we had some questions in chat room about who you admire as far as investigators today. And then Sue wanted me to ask you a question as well. And so we will talk about that. And before we go to break, I just want to thank all of you for getting into chat, all of you who listen and support the show, and especially a big shout out to Mario, who has been here with me since I started UFO Classified. He is my right-hand man and a friend and ally, and I appreciate him very, very much. Next week, I do have confirmation that MJ Benias is going to be on the show. And MJ has written a couple very interesting articles about Skinwalker Ranch. And so this is going to be a good show. You definitely want to tune in next Friday. But he's got a new website called The Debrief, and with Tim McMillan, who if you listen to my past shows, my thoughts and experiences with Tim. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We will be back. I'm here with Phil Leech. This is UFO Classified. Stick around because I have a feeling the best is yet to come. welcome back to UFO Classified. I am your host, Erica Lukes, and I cannot believe that I've been here most Friday nights with you for 6 years, and it has been such a privilege to share my discovery process with all of you. It is, I don't know, I love it. I am here because I know that there's something that is worthy of exploring, and I love meeting people who've had similar experiences, and this is all such a journey for us, and it is really cool to see, and I say this a lot, but just to see people that are like-minded, that are looking for the answers, and sometimes those answers are not what we wanted to find, but the truth is something that is very important, and it also is very, very empowering. So I love it. Thank you for helping me on my journey and being my support system and supporting the show. I am really, really happy to be on. I love it. Anyway, so, and you can tell that I'm not feeling as disheartened this week, which is good, because this can be a very daunting thing sometimes, especially looking into Skinwalker Ranch. But like I mentioned, next week, MJ Benias from the Debrief will be on the show, and I will be asking him questions about some of the information he has put forward with regard to Skinwalker Ranch, and that'll be a good show. I am here now with Phil Leech, who is my favorite troublemaker. What can I say? I mean, it's just that you have, you speak your mind. You have information that you're not afraid to put forward, and I commend that, because I have seen so many people in my time in this subject publicly who are leaders in the field, who have an obligation, I believe, to really come out and to make this a better field and to make this a more respectable subject, and yet they choose not to. And they choose not to address issues that are very important to ethical and professional behavior. And so I love that you are willing to shine a spotlight on that. And so thank you.
Well,
you kind of rock.
I had spent probably a year and a half, my last year and a half with MUFON, where I'd done quite a bit. I mean, I created Project Match between MUFON and NICAP, and helped Roger Marsh write the First Case of Interest book that they put out. I spent like 6 months researching 7,000 freaking cases. I had a great team on the case review team. So I was busy. I was creating things. I was trying to make things work. And then they decided they wanted, certain ones decided they wanted to attack me and MUFON. It was a bad mistake on their part. They shouldn't have really did that. And it's really upsetting. I enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoy looking into the ufology topic. I enjoy, pushing it forward and trying to make it better. Okay. But it was extremely upsetting how that was playing out. A lot of people told me, well, you should go to the board, or you should go to Steve Hudgens. He's a complaint department and this and that. Well, the truth of the matter is Jan Harzan was the end result, and no matter who I went to, Jan was part of the problem. He wouldn't react to any of the issues, and the issues was broad. I mean, it wasn't just with me; it was across the scope with MUFON, and so really, in the end, I had no way. I really didn't have any other choice but to go that direction. If I was going to make change, I knew I was not going to be able to make change within. MUFON was literally within, my guess is, under a year from even having some of the larger problems that what I even brought out. DOI at the time was quite the handful, and creating just numerous issues. It was really going to turn out much worse, even of all the things that I said about it. So I see I had a lot of questions in chat. You want to get to any of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Sue has a question, which we will definitely get to towards the end of the show. But I want to, because people want to know about your personal experiences. I know that you shared them quite in depth on some of the past shows, but if you could just go over that again and just tell everyone why you got to where you are now.
Okay. Yeah. I had two missing time events. Okay, one in 1980, one in 1995. Both times I was in a vehicle. Both times it was, one was 11 p.m. at night. Another one was, I forget, 5:30 a.m. in the morning, maybe, something like that. Both vehicles are reliable, not an issue with them. Going down the road, the vehicle stopped. And each time I lost in the average of 20-some minutes each time. As if that wasn't bad enough, okay? Because I didn't see a UFO. I don't remember any aliens necessarily when this happened. But what the problem was, it took a little bit to realize it was, especially the 1995 one, a lot of my memory was just gone. I don't remember what I got for Christmas. I don't remember vacations. I was married. I don't remember those details. There's just so much that was just gone. Now, if me and you're sitting around talking about something, it'll come back to me. But literally from 1995 back, unless I just sit and concentrate on it or talk about it with someone else, I've been over to my mom's and talked to her about things. She goes, well, you used to have a telescope in the backyard. You used to go back there and look through your telescope. I ain't got no freaking clue if I had a telescope. She said I had it for years. No idea whatsoever. It's her story. So a lot of things like that, it's just gone. So that was very upsetting to me. Now, being in public service jobs, you really don't want to come out and say stuff like this. You're not going to work there very long. They don't look up to something like that. So I had contacted through some of the jobs I did. I was made aware of Stuart Hill, the state director of Indiana at the time. So I contacted him personally about this. Told him everything. I believe he made a report. I don't know. I wasn't in CMS at the time. When with MUFON, so I made a report like anyone else would do. Now, why did I do that? I was diagnosed with celiac disease. Well, I wasn't. I was getting sick. I laid on a couch for a year and a half, and I went from from the police department to 185 pounds down to 103 pounds. I was checking out. I looked, skinny Ethiopian looking thing. Couldn't eat, blah blah blah. Very sick. And I thought somebody needs to know about this. This did happen. I know this happened for a fact. Okay, I need to tell someone about it. And that was the decision-making process in me saying something. So I contacted Stuart here and told him. He actually set up a regression session with Craig Lang. Indiana would fly Craig Lang in once or twice a year into Indiana and do the regression thing with people that had made reports of this type, I guess. So I agreed to do that. Now, when I did that, I was extremely sick. Wife had to drive me 2.5 hours up north to Stuart Hill's house. Craig Lang was there. Went through the regression. My wife was in the room. I told her, you be in here, and she had her phone. I said, record the whole thing. I don't know how much of this I've ever told before, but I'll go ahead and tell you. Downstairs, they had, it was like a den, I guess, but they had a bed in there and a table and light and all that, and a little chair for, Craig. So he had me lay in this bed and started doing his regression stuff, right? You're calm, blah, blah, blah. And I don't remember much of it, but here's the tricky part. I don't know if I remember what happened during the regression itself or the wife told me. I almost think she told me. I almost think that I don't remember the regression part itself. But anyway, he was asking me questions, where are you at? I said, well, I'm above ground, which so you're up high. I go, yes. He said, what do you see? I said, I was cussing, this goddamn bright light. They need to turn that bright light off. I can't see shit. Now this is all on recording. This is all the whole thing. And he says, he asked me some other questions. I don't remember what those was, but he finally got around to saying, well, what is it you want to do right now? And the wife had told me afterwards, I was laying there stiff as a board. I mean, just tense, stiff. And I said, these sons of bitches better not let me up. And Craig brought me out of it because he said I was becoming, a little too upset or something, I guess, or whatever. But so that's as far as that went with the regression. He didn't get very far other than I was above ground, extremely bright light, and I was really pissed off. They better not let me up whatever I was laying on. So that's how that ended. So I was diagnosed with, they found out what was wrong with me after a freaking year and a half. So not much long after that regression thing, they figured it out. And I started getting a little healthier, and Stuart Hill actually called me. Now here you go. Here's some top secret information for you. He calls me up and he says, "Hey," he said, we're short of investigators in Indiana. I know you got what your background is. Would you be interested in doing UFO reports? I said, hell, I guess. I can give it a shot. Can't be any different doing, law enforcement reports and things like that. I said, approach it that way, I guess. And he said, well, I appreciate it. We got a lot of reports, and we have very few people that do the reports. I spent a year doing UFO reports in Indiana and did not belong to MUFON. I would tell him I was speaking to them on behalf of MUFON, and I would write the information down in more of a police-style report and send it to Stuart Hill, and I'm assuming that he put that information in the CMS system. And then he called me one day, like a year later, and said, hey, would you join MUFON? And I joined MUFON at that point. I really didn't want to, but I did. So there you go. That's the story.
And that is interesting. Craig, as you know, was a friend of mine, and I was very saddened with his death, and that was a very unusual thing that took place he was at the International UFO Congress a couple years ago, and he contracted something and was dead in the hospital a few days later. And so it's, that was a very interesting thing, but he was also, obviously on the Experiencer research team. And so
Craig's a good guy. I like Craig.
I liked Craig a lot, and it was very interesting.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I told him before we got started, I do remember this, I told him, I said, listen, I've done these interrogations before. I said, you're not to lead me on in any way, shape, or form. I said, and we probably had a 20-minute conversation or maybe longer before the regression. And I was very clear that I was not going to be played for a fool and led on, and you believe this and don't believe this, and, stuff like that. So he was very cautious how he went about it. It was professional the whole time, and he did not lead me on whatsoever. He did exactly what I used to tell people to do. You go after the evidence and see what you can find. Don't put your beliefs into something.
I want to ask you too, because it was very strange to me when Craig died. First of all, there was really not a lot of mention of that. He died by himself in a hospital in Arizona, and people wanted to. It really seemed like they were trying to brush that under the carpet, and I don't want to put forward a conspiracy here, but there were some very unusual circumstances that might need to be looked at further. But he also, like I was mentioning, he had quite a database, and he was working with MUFON, the high ups, on helping the CMS and he had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with regard to that. And I remember him telling me when I was with him at a conference I was speaking at East City Ranch, I remember him specifically telling me that he had found some things that were going on in the CMS and people that might have perhaps people had access that shouldn't have had access, and he had some questions. And he was very concerned about that.
I don't know if what he would, I'm not sure what he would find in the actual CMS, where the reports are. I think with what he was working on, the regression people, they have their own system. So you can't.
This was the CMS too. So he was helping.
Well, it doesn't mean that they don't have their own spot in CMS or something. I've never, ever, ever seen, other than, how it kind of works is if there's a missing time or anything like that, you contact the ERT team, okay? You do the report, you get all the information you can. Once that's done, if you think you need the ERT team, you call them, and then they'll contact that witness, and and if there was an abduction or missing time, they speak with that person. You have to request them to write something. You got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get it. You got to request something in writing to add to that report, and they write something up, and well, some of the times, at least back then, okay, and they'll add it to the report, but it's really short and sweet. Most of the RT stuff, no one ever sees that. I'd love to see it. I mean, you're talking, most of those are probably Category 3 cases, and those are the ones that you should be looking at, where Category 3 is more important in the way of, a rating system, but there's no looking at that information.
And
that's
in a
all.
way, that is a comforting thing.
It is. It
know,
really is.
Especially when we've seen the misuse of the CMS before and things like that. And so when you've got people that are potentially, that are in a vulnerable situation, then you certainly wouldn't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry having access to that information.
Maybe that's where Craig found something too, okay? Because I had access, complete and total, I can't even begin to tell you, everything. I had Jan Harzan's password. So there was absolutely nothing in CMS I couldn't look at. Wasn't nothing I couldn't change, edit, you name it. I mean, without a problem.
Are you sure that, though, there couldn't, well, I don't know.
Well, if you're looking at, in general, the CMS system, I just don't think there was anything there that would be life-altering to anyone, anywhere, anytime. There wasn't that I could tell. Sure, was there cases that came in that was important that next thing you know, you wonder where the hell they went? Yes, there was. Seen it myself happen. I used to, we looked at those cases when they came in, and we've had several that would come in and go, what the hell happened with that case? Where'd it go? It's got excellent video, blah, blah, blah. CMS screw up, and never to be seen again. You don't know if it went to special assignment team. You don't know where the hell it went because you really don't get an answer. Now, I can't tell you if it's ran that way now. I have no clue. Okay, but for many, many years it was like that. What I consider the better cases, Category 3s that had some value to them, usually didn't show up, or wasn't there very long. I mean, at all, hours, and they was gone.
So let's talk a little bit about that again. So a case would go into the system, a good case, and then what happened? Okay,
one case in particular I recall because one of my team members that I had, there was 4 of us, and as far as I'm concerned, every one of us could do the job just as well as the next person. So we basically took shifts. CMS was monitored almost 24/7 by the case review team. So when these cases would come in, one of my team members called me and said, hey, I want you to go look at this case. And this was through the middle of the day. I want you to go look at this case. He says, it's got some of the most compelling video I've ever seen. Well, I logged into the CMS system because that was his day to watch the system, okay? So I logged into it and tried looking at it, and I said, it's not there. He went back and looked, and it was gone just that quick. And he was very adamant about how good the video was. So I immediately got on the phone and started making my phone calls. I called up Jan, was bitching at him, where'd that case go? And in the end, it was apparently it got lost it got deleted out of the CMS system. It's just gone. That's not true. That doesn't happen. There was several times that happened. I mean, I remember when I was in Indiana MUFON, early on, I think I was a state section director maybe. I haven't been around very long. And state director called me and said, I live in northeast Indiana. And he said, hey, there's a state park in southern Indiana. He said, you and actually Glenn Means, and there was another person. You three get ready. You guys going to State Park down there. This a doctor and his wife and 2 kids was camping at the state park. Like 2, 3 in the morning, this UFO hovered over the trees. Light came down. Blah blah blah. We're going to make this into a Star Team case, which was unusual because Star Team cases don't exist. They never used that. So we was ready to go, and like a day went by, and I said, "Are we going or not?" I mean, that case was no longer in the CMS system. It was gone. Never did get an answer why we wasn't sent there. We was ready to go. It was just gone.
Wow. Well, and that is interesting. And I know that Chris Bledsoe had some very interesting things happen with his case, which is unusual in and of itself for multiple reasons. But that, the files that were put in there from investigators that had worked on the case, I mean, they were gone. So who knows where these things
these
go.
are all things that can be fixed. I mean, in reality, these are things that can, like I said, a lot of these cases end up with not a lot of concrete evidence, unfortunately. It's ufology, it's hard to get. And I'm not sure you need to make those decisions with everything like that. I mean, even the good cases, work them and see what comes out of it. I don't understand it, because if you have a really good case, and whether you have, a piece of a UFO or freaking alien, sleeping in your bed with you, why not use that for media purposes? Those things are worth money. You can put them in the journal. You can get on TV with them. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with that type of thing. Instead, they choose not to do that. I find that very strange. For any organization that survives on income, funds coming in, why not take those really good cases and make something of them? I'm not saying embellish them. I'm saying, promote them in some way, but it's very strange.
Yeah, well, it is. And, I keep going back to, and I've mentioned this a lot on my shows because it was such an interesting case, the case that I had with the mass sighting, October 2nd, 2014 over Utah during the day, and how they worked, people in MUFON worked very quickly and pretty hard to make sure that case was just, nope, it isn't what it is. We're going to say it's a Google Loon balloon, and I really, at the end of the day, think they were something else, and that had a little more earthly explanation. But that was it is interesting, and so I don't know, but
the decision making process is just weird with some of this. I mean, if I was running the place, you can bet I'd be using every bit of information I could to make things better. Instead, it makes its way to the top, and I'm not even sure you could beg and get it at this point. Maybe.
So what are the true motivations of the organization? Is it to collect data and to marginalize the subject? That would appear to be maybe what that would be about.
That's my own just an opinion, okay? I don't know if I can do facts, but the organization exists because of money. I think it's a balancing game. That's a very hard question. There's good people in there. There's good people near the top that could make change and get these things to come out and straighten around. But when you start talking about executive director level, like, I can't speak for now, but like, the Harzans and them that was running things, it makes no sense. I mean, none of it. It's mind-boggling. I've thought and there are different angles. I think it all ends up with the word money. What's best? How do we stay in business? What does it take? What is the minimum it takes, to get by? I don't know. That's a hard, long discussion.
It is, and like I said, I think there's so many facets to it. It's like the UFO subject. What you would think it would appear to be on the surface is not what it actually is. So it's never a dull moment trying to figure it out.
It's depressing. I wish these people would straighten their ass up. If you're going to do it, then do it. If you ain't going to do it, then you need to stop, okay? It's already screwed up enough. right now, my God, there's so much technology and media and smart people in the world. You know, start putting these assets together. For the life of me, I used to push. I was one of those ones that pushed weird ideas. I'd push like, you know, MUFON, NICAP, SCU should all be working together.
Clash of the
You know,
Titans.
well, you have a common goal, but you
you?
go about things differently with each group. You know, so you know, you look at SCU and they're just loaded with what I call intelligence people, you know, scientists, military. I mean, they're just loaded with them. A whole lot of expertise sitting there, something that MUFON didn't have when it comes to the science side of things. So why in the hell would you work? You know, everybody should work together towards a common goal. Instead, you had To the Stars Academy waltz in there and play their games with every single group that was in there because it was just too easy, because those groups wasn't working together. Everybody's working separately.
But here's the thing, though. You've got SCU, you've got To the Stars Academy, you've got MUFON, and guess whose names keep coming up in all these organizations? Bigelow. Hal Puthoff is speaking at SCU. You know, I mean, it's like...
Yeah, Hal Puthoff comes up a lot.
And it's like the same old...
Yeah.
You know, it's the same old people that are involved in creating a smoke screen and doing things behind the scenes that are not, you know, that are not UFOs. It's not above board. It isn't in our best interest. That is my belief. And so, you know, again, it's like... You know,
we don't have time really to talk about that barbell case because that's rather entailed.
Well, you could do it.
Well, I don't think we have time. I don't know if we can do it in 30 minutes.
Well...
But I was going to say...
I have complete control over... Yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. We can just answer questions and maybe the audience has. We can keep talking. We can talk about it another time. What I was going to say was, because of the barbell case, there was a Canadian barbell case that had a Department of Defense contractor, and he still works for the Department of Defense as a contractor. Had witnessed a barbell-shaped object up in Ontario, Canada. Back in 2013, I was lead investigator on that because he actually lives in Indiana. Very entailed case. I think it is the longest case report in the CMS system. I mean, I forget how many, 30, 40 freaking pages long. It's huge. You know, that case made the journal. I was on numerous radio shows talking about it. But I honestly believe this. The way I had to go about that case, there was only two of us to this day still knows who that witness is. That was being me and Robert Powell. He was the director of research at MUFON at the time. We had to control how it was delivered to MUFON to get the right reaction out of them, to even publish it and use it. If we wouldn't have done that, I don't even think that case would have made it off the ground with them, even though, I mean, we worked on that for years. We still communicate with that witness because there's just a whole lot to that case. One of the few cases, and I can say this, is that there's some evidence that was found with that case. In short, there was a video took. The video camera, the footage actually didn't take, but the sound, the whole time the event happened, the sound was playing. You could hear them talking. You can hear what was going on, the excitement and all these types of things. There was three witnesses. Long story short, at the end, we ended up getting this video into basically a sound room, and we find a signal embedded in this video of this object. Was operating on low megahertz band frequency. So, you know, that was all kind of an interview taped thing to show that this, you know, this actually existed. That is some form of evidence. MUFON does nothing with this at all. They have no questions. I mean, nothing. Zero. You can ask me right now if anyone in MUFON, other than me and Robert, asked us questions from MUFON, can you explain this, or this? Not one freaking question from them people. So, because of the way we presented it, they had to use it, and they used it for the little bit of media purposes. And Jan's talked about it on numerous radio shows, one of his favorite cases. But if it wasn't for the way we presented it, I don't think it would have went very far. with all that work that we put into it.
I mean, and yeah, it is so interesting, and I've heard you talk about this case for years, and I know how much work you put into it, and that it was just, it's an amazing case, and I think that you and I need to explore that a little bit more, because giving that brief description is just a couple light bulbs have gone off in my head. So we'll definitely.
It's a very lengthy, detailed. I've done numerous radio shows about it. When it first, we first brought it out, I was doing radio shows on the West Coast, and it take a good hour and a half to talk about it, to get through the entire thing and to understand everything about it. A good hour and a half probably. It's very interesting. Put a lot of work into that. For your listeners, you can go to YouTube, type in Phil Leech, Leech. The Canadian barbell case. 74282 is the number that you need. That's MUFON case number. I did an initial video interview with the witness. There was actually 3 witnesses. I interviewed 2 of them. It's a very interesting interview. You can see, listen to the individual and kind of tell what type of person he is, I guess. We vetted him 18 ways to Sunday. We still, to this day, do the same thing. We always look for just something that's out of place to see if this was set up or weird or strange or anything like that. Robert Powell flew in from Texas into Indiana, spent the day with this guy. He's a very legitimate, I can't even begin to tell you, highly qualified witness. So your listeners can go look for that on YouTube. It's still there. I think it's 50-some, I forget. 40, 50-minute long interview.
So why did Robert, what made this case so unique to him that he would spend his own money and fly in to meet this fellow and interview him?
Well, one, because of who the witness. When the case first came in, actually he had submitted a case that was separate from this case, and I called it dumb luck. I'm the one who called the guy and talked to him about it, and we kind of figured out, I did that little small report with that. He was almost filling me out, I think, to see if I was legit enough to speak with, and then very shortly after he called me, he started explaining to me about this case, and he said, "Can you help me with this?" I said, "Yeah, I believe so." So I called up Jan Harzan. I was like a chief investigator, maybe something. I don't remember, in Indiana. I called him up and I said, "Hey, this is what's going on. How you want to handle this? Because this is a scientist for Department of Defense who's currently working and still is." I said, we got to be careful with who this guy. He doesn't want his name out. There's a lot of information here, and there's a lot to do. He said, "Well, who have you worked with before?" And believe it or not, my early time in MUFON, I've worked with Robert Powell twice on a couple, maybe once or twice, I don't remember, on the different projects. So I've worked with Robert. He's director of research. He goes, "Well, give him a call, see if he'll help you." And to this day, me and Robert's the only one who knows who this guy is, and we both have worked that case. After Robert seen my interview, your listeners can go take a look at that, Robert realized the value in this case. I couldn't begin to tell you, thousands of phone calls, emails. It's uncanny how many. But I wanted Robert to come in and vet him. I wanted him to come in and meet him. The guy's very sincere. He's very legit. He's extremely intelligent for a witness. It's like little Einstein. But Robert was good enough to, come in from Texas, spent the day with him. The guy has a facility, northern Indiana, and Robert's, I'd been there. I'd seen some of the projects he's done for the government. Robert came in and spent the day and seen all these things and realized this was just a top-notch witness.
And that's great. And I've worked with Robert on a couple of my big cases too, and I really enjoyed working with him, and he has so much knowledge. That's great.
Yeah, it was stressful, but it was fun all at the same time. It's an excellent UFO report, and when we get a little more time, then we'll talk about it.
Well, I know we keep doing this every show. We're going to talk about that.
I know every show we keep. Yeah, little teaser. Check with us a year from now. We'll see if we can't talk about it.
But there's so
Did
many
you
other
have any
things in the
questions?
meantime. I do, and I want to get to that in just a second. But well, actually, one question because they were trying to find the YouTube case, and so can you give us the number again?
Yeah, 74282.
Okay.
If you type in like Phil Leech, I would type in Phil Leech MUFON 74282. There's two different ones. There's one that's actually interviewing the witness, and there's another one. It's called a Tech 2B video. It's kind of explaining that low megahertz signal I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And if anybody wants anything in particular, just have them get a hold of you through a message or something. You can
Okay.
give me the information.
Lord help you.
You know,
you don't want me to be
it
your
is a very good
secretary.
case.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I can't even do my audio. But hey, you know.
Well, not well, but you're getting there.
It makes it exciting, though. You know.
It does. Yeah,
Living on the edge. What will you hear and what won't you hear? Thanks to the mute button.
Tell them it's Leech. It's two E's, Leech, not LEA. So that might help find it.
Thank you. And so let's talk about Euphoria.
Oh, okay. When I left MUFON and fought with them for a damn year afterwards, Sue Gerberding was actually on my case review team. Well, she had some issues with them. They shouldn't have got rid. They got rid of her too, which was just totally wrong. That's so sad. You know, they get rid of the good help, right? Me and her was good friends, so we kept in communication, and we at time eludes me, but at some point here we decided let's just start our own. So, you know, as co-founders, that's exactly what we did. We probably spent, and I don't recall, it was a long time, 6, 7, 8 months putting this type of thing together. You know, how we was going to do it, what we was going to concentrate on, and how we could do it different than everybody else. So we started Euphoria, UFO Reporting Agency. We ended up with, I forget, 12, 15 investigators scattered across the United States. Few of them, very few, MUFON people. We end up with, you know, doctors and this and that. I got a hold of Robert and SCU. I got a hold of Fran and NICAP. We had written agreements with them. So we've all going to work together, exactly as I mentioned earlier. And, you know, if SCU, you know, they are more of a research group and white papers, you know, the end result, they're not really investigators per se. They can, but that's not what they concentrate on. So any UFO reports that would come through Euphoria, or even Fran with NICAP, you know, they would give us a call, and we would look into those types of reports. Once we got to a certain point with it, we realized that we need to look at a database too. So that is where we decided, and then the COVID thing started rolling around, and so we decided to put on hold for a while. So Euphoria still exists. It's just on hold right now because everything that's going on, especially with the COVID, and there's none of that safe for anybody to do anything with. But we was basically looking at law enforcement, aviation, military, those types of reports. Not that they're any better than anybody else, but that was what we was going to concentrate on. And we did reports. I even reached out to MUFON, said, hey, how you want to work together, certain things, very, and very controlled atmosphere, and they didn't want any part, they didn't want any part of that. So, at some point we might resurrect Euphoria. We've talked about it recently, about how we would go about it, what we need to do with that type of thing. Sue is very good with the paperwork end of things and details and all of these types of things. I'm more of your go yell at somebody. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm more of a problem solver, and let's go this direction and try to do this. So when it comes to details, she's very detail oriented. So I respect her a lot for that. So me and her, we keep in close contact.
She's a good person.
She is. She's, my God, she's done, I don't even remember what she told me, freaking couple thousand cases.
Wow.
When she was with MUFON. Oh, it was uncanny amount of cases, yeah.
Well,
I mean, in a short period of time.
Before. I mean, thanks to you hooked me up with her. And, thanks to
you,
she's in chat. And, again, there's another great person that has been, that has gone through the similar type of thing that we have, that excitement and wanting to do the best that we can, and then this disillusionment and the realization that things aren't what we thought they were, and how do we reboot and try to find a better situation, which you guys have been trying to do.
We are. I can't say it's easy. I mean, we run into, believe it or not, a small organization runs into the same problems a big organization runs into, training and how to keep on track, and then just all these types of things, And it's something we're looking at. We might resurrect it. We would get the COVID thing under control a little bit. I don't like the thought of anyone going anywhere, doing anything with the COVID thing running around. I think there's no value to it at this moment. So we put things on hold. It was a mutual agreement. Me and her spoke, in detail about it. We don't have a website. We did. We shut that down. I had a Facebook page, and I think I just archived it for the moment. We had actually done some promo videos, commercials type things. We had one of the members was a producer for videos and stuff like that down in southern United States. And he did some really good work with that. So, assuming it gets going again, I look forward to probably working again with Fran or Robert and, his group of guys over there. And whoever else I can work with. I believe in having all the assets that you need to do the job, no matter what that takes.
Well, and you have met some people that I've had on my show, and people that I've gone to over the years for input, and people that have helped me build my archive and added so much to my life in regard to this. Whether we agree or disagree on things, at the end of the day, I've learned so much, and I am grateful to people like Fran and Robert Powell and all of those people, because they've been here.
A jackass.
Who?
They teach you something down the road. It's one of those, you learn from mistakes. You learn from doing it the right way. So you just keep getting better at it. That's just how it works. We wouldn't know how to put something together if we hadn't already been through it. And I've seen what didn't work and try to do that a little bit better. Of course, you always get a big organization. Do what?
And that's the important thing.
Well, you get a big organizations like MUFON, they don't look at, there's been a lot of organizations, smaller ones, start and fail. We didn't fail, we just put it on hold. We need to regroup with a couple certain areas, and the COVID thing, it's just on hold. We didn't fail. We had reports. We had investigators. We had the right connections that we needed to make. We'll see how it turns out. Anyway.
Well, and so
you got me just telling all kinds of secrets now.
Dun dun dun! I know that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's never a dull moment with Phil Leech on the show. But what I want to ask you, and we have somebody, Peter, in chat, who always asks great questions, but he wants to know, at the end of the day, what do you think we are dealing with?
In the way of just ufology in general?
As far as I believe the phenomenon itself, do you think this is human or non-human, and why?
I think the world evolves, and we evolve to where we get now. We're only so smart, okay? Right today, we're only so smart. 100 years from now, can you even imagine what we're going to be able to do or comprehend or go or any of those answers? So do I think UFOs and aliens exist? Yes. I do not think, and I say that only because if you look at it now, it's easy to say, well, it's all the government. You can blame air. I mean, I go to every MUFON case that's in the CMS system and go, oh, that's the government. That's a drone. That's a plane. That's a special operation they're running, blah, blah, blah. You couldn't do that back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. This internet didn't exist. Okay? All these, it's just too easy now to believe almost anything now. Back then, there's some very credible cases back then. I did some in Indiana. It was outstanding, okay? Abduction cases. One in particular was a little town east of Indianapolis. This lady made a report. I call her. Long story short, they're out. It's a little small farm. Her sister, her brother, and their cousin are out playing by the chicken coop in the barn. They see an object come into the farm land. They all remember this. Next thing they remember is they're all lined up on what would be the little dirt road up to the farmhouse, and they're lined up like little toy soldiers. Okay, it's a story, but the brother committed suicide for mental conditions. The older he got, now they claim it had something to do with this. That's whether that's true or not, I don't know. But each sister had a scoop mark in the exact same spot on the same leg. One sister lives in Hawaii and really didn't want to talk to me much about it, but did, sent me photos and everything. So there's a lot of these cases that I believe that are real. Do I think that the government did that back? No, I don't. I don't think back then they had something like that they could do that. So UFOs exist. I think it's a very small percentage. I think it's a tiny, tiny percentage. I don't, if you look at like MUFON, every 7,000 cases a freaking year. If we got 7,000 UFOs in the United States in a year, we're being freaking invaded, okay? So it's a very small percentage. I do think there's something to it. Now, how are they getting here? Is it third dimensional stuff? Are they flying, nuts and bolts craft, through space? Maybe it's a little of both. I don't think we're capable of understanding it right now. I don't think our technology or our brains are able to comprehend that. We can dream up anything we want. We can make up anything we want. I think in time, because we're getting smarter, technology's jumping so fast, that I think at some point it's inevitable that we find out the truth because we're going to be in that position to where we can better understand it. That's what I think.
Well, that's a great way to sum that up. And so one more question for you, and then we've got to end the show. But why do you think they exist specifically, and why the cover-up?
Well, the cover-up, we'll start with that. That's an easy question. It's kind of like the problem at the Capitol, okay? You have a bunch of people that's acting up, right? And then you got freaking 20,000 other people who just join right in. It's a mob mentality, okay? So why would you cover things up? You don't want... Some things you can't tell the truth about if you're the government. You don't want the other countries knowing. The technology, maybe we wouldn't understand it. Maybe it'd scare the hell out of us. Who knows? I don't, there's many, many reasons for that. It's just, there's just a lot of reasons to cover something up if that's what's actually happening. What was the first question again? Let's see.
So, I mean,
why do I think they exist specifically?
Right.
I think we'd be naive fools to think that they don't. Space is a big ass place out there. We'd have to be stupid to think that we're the only ones exist. We're the smartest kid on the block. Our technology is further than anything else. Just go outside and look up. Okay.
Right.
There's got to be some, So, like again, our brains that tell us that we're the smartest kids. We're the smartest people alive right now. Our technology's it. This is it. No, it could be nothing compared to something that's been around a little bit longer. We just don't understand, why they do what they're doing, how they get here. All those questions that come along with it. But it's. I just think we'd have to be extremely naive to think that we're the only planet that's inhabitable or smart.
Well, that is a frightening thought.
There's been too many credible witnesses for me, even though the evidence is far and few between. Witness testimony means a lot, and when you talk with doctors and you narrow down all the possibilities, and you realize that this guy's seen something that's truly unusual, and it would harm his career or his family or whatever, if he's lying or making this up, right? And you can see it in their eyes when you're talking to them. If they fully believe what they've seen, they might not understand what they've seen. I think there is something to that. I think you have to pay attention to that. Like I said, I went through a couple missing time events that I didn't understand. I don't understand it to this day. It's kind of why I do what I do. I don't do this for you. I don't do it for anybody, any one of your listeners on there, okay? I do this for me because this happened to me. I'm looking for that answer. I wasted a lot of time in other areas or with other people trying to find that answer. So I'll go about it a little differently, and I'll see if I can find it. But that's why I do what I do, and that's the goal of the entire thing.
And I love that, and that's how I feel, and I know that's how a lot of people that are listening to the show, feel. I mean, most of us are here because we've had experiences, and we're trying to figure out what they are and put meaning on them. And I think the importance of somebody like you is the fact that, again, you're willing to talk about things that need to be talked about, so each of us can really find our own path and not get bogged down in all of this really dysfunctional stuff. And I really,
they want to deflect. Always remember that, no matter who it is, whether it's the news, the government, agencies, they want to deflect from the truth. They want to make something else the news story of the day when you should be looking at what you're supposed to be looking at. Okay, and if you stick to that, and go with what I said, you can't lead from behind. And you take that and you run with it and you just keep going and going. There's something going to happen. There's a reason that all your listeners are on this radio show right now. There's the reason you do it. There's a reason I do it. There's a reason so many, many, many others don't do it. I do believe that people that are into the ufology thing, crazy or not, I believe that they're supposed to do it. There's a reason they're doing it. Now, they might not know that reason, but I do believe there's a reason that we all do what we're supposed to do.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's an interesting journey. I mean, my life would have been, it wouldn't have been boring because I've always had an interesting life. But I mean, it's been rewarding. It has been, kind of traumatizing sometimes. It has been hard, but it has been worth it. And especially because of the relationships that I have made and the things that I've learned about myself at the end of the day. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, it's just about, just learning more about yourself and having a good time while you're at it, or, going to therapy and getting on more prescription medication. I don't know. Just kidding.
More beer. We need more beer.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. We're going to wrap up the show, and thank you, Bill, and thank you, Mario, for posting my link to donate. And I want to just give a shout out to all of the people that help keep me on the air: Steve, Chris, Sue, Sherry, Jay, Deb, UFO researcher Brian, John, Dave, Christopher, Irv, Hoska, Era, Ed, Andrew, and Mario. You guys are really doing a lot, again, to help spread the truth and to to create a wonderful network of people from all over the world. We are going to do this together because there is something important here, and I just appreciate all of you. So thank you, Phil. All of you, please be safe. Have a wonderful weekend, and don't forget that next week, next Friday, MJ Benias is going to be on the show, and trust me, that is going to be good. So you take care. Thanks. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next Friday.
So my skeptical mind, and that's just who I am. My skeptical mind goes to, well, yeah, of course, you've got this guy over here that's logical and reasonable, and you got this guy over here that's wearing a tinfoil hat. Of course, the tinfoil hat guy's gonna see a lot of stuff, right? He's like imagining it, or he's watched one too many sci-fi movies.
We want to put it to use to help us frame hypotheses for UFO propulsion, power, stealth, weaponry.
Everything that we experience is very positive.
Sometimes the field of ufology has a short memory span.
We didn't know anything about the $22 million back then. We just kind of thought, well, this is, and I think that was the reason why they were looking for military-type people, because in the military, you work with whatever you got, no matter what the situation is, and you just kind of adapt and overcome.
What are you going to do with all this? You can't even take care of your own files and get them put into the current system, but yet you want to go collect other people's things. So what are you going to do with this? Who are you giving all this to?
It just really struck me about how the common thread seemed to be deception, but deception of a human nature. So that's what I started thinking, who would these folks be? I mean, then I started thinking about the intelligence agencies, what role they could play, and what would be their motivations for getting involved in ufology.
I'm not saying that because the gimbal is not a rotating flying saucer, that means that all the UFOs are false. Not at all. All I'm doing is I'm looking at this one case, these individual cases, and seeing if there's an explanation for those. So try to, if I could ask people out there listening, don't think that I'm trying to attack your entire beliefs about these things.
Nice to be in orbit.